Streaming to both.
Let's wait 5,
5,
4.
4. Welcome to Awesome Hardware, everybody! The live stream where Paul and I stream every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/awesomehardware or either of our respective YouTube channels. Paul's Hardware, Awesome Sauce Network. You guys know it. You love it. Watch it. Yeah. So what are we doing today, Paul? We got announcements. You got beer. We got announcements first. Buy some shit. Buy some shit from either Paul's or my store. Awesome Hardware. AwesomeSauceNetwork.com/store is where you can buy some merchandise from myself. You can buy a sexy shirt like Paul has here, or any of the designs that you see on the site. You will be getting a special Johnson shout out from buying from either my or Paul's store. You can also go to Paul's Hardware. store.paulshardware.net, where you can buy shirts, mugs, glasses, all kinds of fabulous things. Actually, this glass that Paul is drinking his beautiful stout in right here, you can also buy on that site. And like I said, you will get a special Johnson shout out at the end of this episode with your special name included. All kinds of great things. Only
your first name, that way you respect your privacy.
That's right. We only call out your first name and your address. So let's just go ahead and continue on where Paul left off, which is with tech news. The first story that I want to talk about here is, have you heard of Fixstars? Fixstars?
Fixstars?
Yes.
So like, if your star is having difficulty with...
Has nothing to do with stars.
With fusion.
Nope.
It will inject some dense matter into it.
I wish it was that interesting.
Increases the overall mass of the star and allows for fusion of more dense atoms.
You're just making my story seem less interesting by setting it up with this pretense that it has to do with like aerospace and all this kind of shit. No, this is a Japanese company called Fixstars who are kind of renowned for their high capacity SSDs, and they just recently announced 2.5-inch SSDs that are now available for pre-order with up to 13 terabytes per drive.
Terabytes? I burped a little bit when I said that.
Yeah, 13 terabytes, which is kind of crazy. Now, granted, these are, even though they're 2.5-inch drives, you can see how thick they are from that picture. These are actually 15 millimeter thick drives, so more than double what you'd find on a typical 7 millimeter drive SSD. But 13 terabytes, probably a small price to pay if it's a little bit thicker. 2.5, a 7 millimeter drive isn't that thick to begin with. But
this is essentially the same size as like an Intel 750 series.
Yes, exactly.
The 2.5 version.
Exactly. And you have one of those in Arctic Panther, your custom water-cooled build, and you've been able to find a place for that. Yeah, I know. We don't have the sound effect here on live. Again, we need to get that mixing board all up in the mix. But 13 terabytes, there's a lot you can do with a 13 terabyte SSD. I don't even have a hard drive, like a mechanical moving parts drive in my system that's near that capacity.
Closest I came was my 4 terabyte RAID array.
Right.
Which ended up being about 11.5 terabytes formatted. That was in RAID 5.
Yeah, and that's like a culmination of several drives in a RAID array. Whereas we're talking about a single drive here that's 13 terabytes alone. And exactly how they were able to do that, Fixstars, the company again, they were able to increase the capacity by using flash chips that were essentially designed for small-scale mobile devices, using Toshiba 15nm MLC flash with a proprietary SSD controller that pretty much gives you read-write speeds up to 520 megabytes per second, which isn't terrible at all. That's pretty much standard.
It's about what you'd expect from a typical SATA F3
and that's exactly
SSD.
Yes. So SATA 6 gigabits per second interface, and that read-write speed of 520 megabytes per second is throughout the lifetime of the drive. So regardless of how many write cycles that it's had on it or how full the capacity is, 3-year warranty. No pricing has been mentioned, but the spokesman for Fixstars hinted at $1 per gig. Which I guess when you're starting to talk about these really extreme
$13,000.
13, well, it'd be 13. Yeah, I guess that seems like what it would be. It'd be 13,000 gigabytes, $13,000. That's what the article said.
Wait, really? I was joking.
No, because it says dollar per gig. It says dollar per gig in the article, so I was going to say this is going to be a $13,000 drive.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Why? I don't care about that.
I know, but that just. But I don't know if there's any inconsistency with this article where they're getting their information from, or if it's completely correct, or if there's a typo here somewhere. That seems pretty steep for anyone. I don't think anyone will buy this at $13,000. If it was $1,300, that's a lot more reasonable. And I have a feeling that there's going to be an editor update in this article saying like, okay, we weren't really, completely accurate about that estimate. But just for the time being, we can just only focus on the capabilities and the capacity of this drive, which at 13 terabytes, it can record 4.3 hours of uncompressed, guys. So there's no compression done here at 4K video at 60 FPS, which is pretty nuts, or 823 hours of 4K video, also at 60 FPS using H.265 encoding. And then
how come whenever they talk about capacity in like a hard drive or an SSD or something like that, it has to be boiled down to like, here's how many musics you could fit on there. Here's how many movies you could fit on there.
It's a marketing thing.
I know it's a marketing thing, and I know it like makes more sense. And honestly, as a person who works with video, that H.265 like
it puts things in perspective.
Compressed 4K video, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. But it's still completely arbitrary because it's entirely based on like how long the song is, how the bit rate it's encoded at, and all that kind of stuff. For me, like 13 terabytes is enough, and I feel like
they don't need to spice it up.
I feel like the public is familiar enough with like how much capacity things are that like people know what a gigabyte is.
Right.
I don't know.
Is
it just our little community that's over this? Do they still need this for other people?
Let's
argue it on Sword Fight.
Next time.
Next week or something.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, this 13 terabytes is more than anyone should ever need for most people. And while this is targeted at enterprise-level consumers, it is available to the public when it does come out. So you can pretty much pick up one of these for $13,000. Mild price to pay. I'm not 100%.
I was surprised.
Not 100% certain that that's the case.
I'm surprised at that $1 per gig thing.
I honestly don't think... Oh, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony,
Thanks,
for
Tony.
the $1 donation. I ordered something from Paul's store, but I felt like I needed to balance it out and donate to Kyle. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Tony Johnson to you, Tony, in case... Because I feel like I thanked my people who ordered from my store on my side, but I didn't say Johnson appropriately, so Johnson.
Yeah. You're putting all the Johnson burden on me.
More Johnsons. Well, your Johnson was so enthusiastic, and so...
It kind of covered both of us.
We're just out there.
It's true,
for everyone to see.
We should coordinate our Johnsons.
But yeah, 13...
like the feature film, Too Much Johnsons.
Too Much Johnsons 2. It's even more Johnson. I don't know.
That would be the trailer, like, tagline. It's even more Johnson. And everyone would watch it. Why wouldn't they?
I'd watch that all day.
All right, so...
Put that on Netflix and binge watch it.
Yeah. So maybe you guys can do some more research on your own to see, really, we'll probably have some more updates later in Q1 here, whether or not this thing is actually going to be as expensive as it's estimated in this article. But moving on, Samsung has announced that they have started to mass produce HBM2 chips. Hey! Yeah, yes, finally, we're starting to see HBM2 on the rise. They announced the production of 4 gigabyte HBM2 chips, and that it is underway. These chips will be utilized, of course, for high-end GPUs. Primarily, that's probably the thing that we're interested in most here. Now, the memory is being built on Samsung's 20nm process technology, which essentially makes them small and easy to use, while at the same time staying very affordable for the consumer, which is nice to see. This 4 gigabyte module, each of these chips is going to be made by stacking 4 gigabit DRAM dies together vertically, so you have vertical NAND in a way, maybe not NAND, but it's going to be offering 256 gigabits per second of bandwidth, double that, guys, of HBM1, which is what we've currently been seeing in the Fiji chips from AMD.
Yes.
And it's going to be 7 times that speed, or bandwidth, I should say, of GDDR5, which is probably what most of us are running on right now. If you have a discrete card, it's probably within the last, 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer, it's probably running GDDR5. It's going to be 7 times the bandwidth of that type of memory, which is pretty impressive.
That's sexy.
That is very sexy. And these next-gen HBM GPUs are expected to have, and this isn't the first time we've heard this, up to 16 gigs of HBM2 memory. So right now, I think the highest one is the Titan X with 12 gigabytes. I believe that's the highest single GPU card with of like actual VRAM. And now we're gonna expect to see 16 gigabytes, which is ludicrous.
It's crazy, but it seems like it might actually be needed. I mean, if you look at, retweet me by the way. If like, all right, if you look at VR, because VR is becoming a thing for the public this year. Finally, we hope. Some early headsets are coming out.
Definitely.
We're gonna check those out. I'm not. It's really hard to say. I think for VR, whether it's going to be like a right out of the gate, lots of people get it, or whether there's going to be like a year or two of early adoption period.
There will be.
Yeah, the chances are there will be. But I keep hearing more and more inflated terms for what's required for VR when it comes to the resolution that each eye's display needs to run at, as well as the frame rate that they need to hit. And the frame rate that each display needs to hit at minimum frame rate. So when you're seeing 90 hertz is what a lot of the displays are going with
for both eyes.
For the new ones. It's for both eyes, and that means that your GPU needs to be able to output 90 FPS
twice
minimum.
right,
and minimum, not average.
Yeah.
So whenever I see this stuff about the new generation of GPUs, and what AMD's planning, and what NVIDIA's planning, and the advances with HBM.
Yeah.
I'm always like, it seems a lot right now, but it's going to be needed.
In terms of VR.
Yeah. And we're also going to need much more powerful computers and all that good stuff, which is good.
Yeah.
For all of us, because the industry continually needs reasons to build new hardware.
Right.
If it stopped at 1080, then, AMD and Intel in particular, like they wouldn't be making a whole lot of money right now because no one would need it.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway,
that just goes to show like what an impact the VR market has had on the PC industry in general, and like the graphics market particularly, because the minimum requirements. I mean, we haven't seen minimum requirements like this for any kind of platform, just completely like beefed up and skyrocketed in so long that I feel like it's really it's pretty much keeping the graphics market on their toes. All these manufacturers, AMD and NVIDIA alike, they really need to push this out if they want to be on the bleeding edge of VR development and VR consumerism, really. No one's going to be able to buy these headsets or use them effectively without really beefy memory chips in these graphics cards. So that's definitely something to consider. But HBM2, on the rise. It's underway, folks. It's already underway. And granted, this isn't going to be, in the next generation, like fully fledged of the whole lineup of the next gen Pascal or Zen GPUs. It's going to be reserved specifically for the flagship cards. So if you're expecting that they're all going to be HBM2 in the next, few GPUs that we see pop up, that's probably not the case. It's really going to be reserved, kind of very much like how Fiji chips were the only ones from AMD side to feature HBM1. You're only going to see flagship cards from Team Red or Team Green implementing the use of these next generation memory chips. So, but that's still very exciting.
But if it's high ends in 2016 and only the flagship cards come with it, then in 2017 it'll be everywhere.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
We hope.
Shit moves fast in this industry, which is the most exciting part about it. But next up, we've got a little bit of a deviation from the GPU market. We're talking about Netflix and how they've been cracking down lately on VPNs. And this is kind of interesting because... a
VPN is a virtual penis network, by the way.
A virtual penis network, as we learned from Paul's half of the show when we were talking about porn on YouTube. Very interesting. You should go check it out if you haven't.
And all those Ethernet plugs.
That's right.
I love the visual representations of digital stuff. Like, we need a picture here to just put some plugs.
Yeah.
Just some fiber optics behind it. People will think it's data being sent back and forth.
It's like us with thumbnails on our videos. Well, I don't want to just put a piece of... Put some nice looking shit here.
I don't know what this means.
It's probably not important. Anyway, why? Why is Netflix cracking down on VPNs?
This is what you get. This is if you're trying to connect with a VPN.
Oh, it's just a JPEG.
So they're blacklisting IPs from the VPNs?
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, yeah. They're blacklisting it. So essentially,
Okay.
what's happening is people around the world are subscribed to Netflix, and they're watching content through Netflix and the streaming service that it offers. Very popular around the world globally, but a lot of countries have geo-restricted content parameters that prohibit people from watching Netflix in their country of residence. So people then, who are deemed in this article anyway as VPN pirates, will sign up with a VPN, a virtual private network, who will then allow them to see this content that otherwise wouldn't be visible or viewable by their country's government regulations, what have you. So Netflix is trying to crack down on those VPN pirates, essentially. But they have kind of a solution in place. Whether or not it goes according to plan is another thing. But they're planning to create a global service, which essentially will remove the need for any kind of VPN or VPN piracy in order to make a global service like this that Netflix is intending to create. They're going to need movie and TV studios to offer global licensing agreements instead of the common, very traditional geographical agreements. So what that means is Netflix is now going to have to approach like these big film and movie TV industries and say, hey, look, we're trying to eliminate VPN use with our streaming service. So would you give us a license that just says that your show can be broadcast globally instead of just to specific regions or geographic demographics, essentially?
Geographic demographics.
Geographic demographics. It's a thing, people. Netflix.
It makes sense. It just kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it totally does. But what this also means is that as Netflix continues or starts to crack down on these VPNs, is that it's going to, you can kind of expect these VPN pirates to most likely start looking for more sophisticated methods of VPN usage to kind of like bypass that until these global licenses with these movie and TV industries are implemented, because people are going to want to watch what they want to watch anytime they want to watch it. That's the internet. That's like the whole story of the internet and how it's been since it started, is like anytime, anywhere, any place, I want this content and I want to have it now. So it's kind of a question of like, will the rights holders of these particular films and TV series, will they agree to Netflix's global licensing terms? Will there be a global licensing version of Netflix where people will no longer have to use a VPN to view all the content that Netflix offers? So it's kind of interesting. I'm curious to know if you guys use a VPN for geo-restricted content, or if you use a VPN, what you use it for. I remember in Thailand, I can't remember what I used it for, but I had a VPN. I used a VPN in Thailand when I was there for my honeymoon. To view some weird site. It must have been porn or something. I don't know what it was. But it came in handy that way. Do you use a VPN, Paul, currently?
Yeah, I have private internet access
Uh-huh.
as a VPN that I run on my main system most of the time, and some of my remote systems as well. I used Viper VPN, VYPR, when I was in China.
Yeah.
To circumvent the Great Firewall of China.
Right.
Worked most of the time, depended where you are. In Tibet, it was spotty.
Okay.
But Tibet, the internet is spotty.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is an insanely complex issue to address, because you have Netflix and what Netflix wants. You have the production studios and their licensing of their material, whether it's Netflix or whether it's movie houses or anything like that. Right. And they want control over their content, and they want people to pay for their content. They want to get paid for the stuff that they've done. You have countries which might be weighing in certain circumstances when it comes to censorship, or like what type of material they're going to allow or disallow in the country. So there's a lot of entities weighing in on here. And then honestly, at the lowest level of the of just users who want to watch whatever they want to watch, people are going to keep doing what they've been doing. They're going to find other VPNs. They're going to find other ways to reroute their IP address or mask it or that kind of thing. Right. Total Tech Edition in chat says he uses a program called SmartFlix. I have not tried that or vouched for it, but that's what he said. So there's always going to be a
true.
way.
Yeah.
At least right now, it seems like there's always going to be a way for people to mask it. It's just a matter of how easy it's going to be. And I think what Netflix has done for the time being is they've taken most of the easy routes as far as the large VPNs that have lots of people that connect to them, that have established IP addresses that they use, block those, and we'll see how far they go in trying to really cut down on people doing this a lot.
Right.
But a lot of it seems to be people outside the U.S. trying to access U.S. content.
Exactly. Because I think most of us in the U.S., we don't really have any... We don't have too many restrictions on Netflix. I mean, Netflix is a U.S.-based company, and we don't really have to deal with that issue of geo-restricted content that a lot of other countries, like Thailand I was just mentioning, have to deal with. So, yeah, they're really trying to branch out and trying to unify or universalize their content so that anywhere in the world, when you log on to Netflix, you have access to all the same content. And it's interesting because whereas, like, America, like the United States, has a lot of, like, violent crimes. I'm not saying other countries don't have this, but we have a lot of violent crimes and, like, shootings and gunmen and stuff like that, where we're completely fine with, like, releasing films and TV series that have a lot to do with violence. Like, graphic and visceral material is generally okay and accepted in America. Whereas, like, other, like, countries that really, you know, almost don't have as much violence issues as we do, they're very, like, particular about that sort of thing. So that's probably why, if you're in a different country right now, you might not see some of the content that we might see.
Good point here. UK Netflix has a lot of the BBC shows. And and you can't get those here.
That's true.
Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Huge Doctor Who fan. I can't say I'm a huge... I really like Doctor Who. I would say I'm a huge fan, but then people would be like, oh, what about this episode? I'd be like, I don't remember that shit. No, but Doctor Who's awesome, and it's harder to get.
So we're all affected by it, essentially.
Yeah, and
it's true.
And you make a good point there about, like, different, you know...
cultures and...
Different cultures, different values.
Yeah.
Like, you're right, the U.S. is very tolerant of, like, violent content, but a lot less tolerant of sex and nudity.
Yes.
Quick.
Whereas if we saw the YouTube video that you
that we were watching, Kyle and I were watching that YouTube video that we talked about on my half of the show with YouTube hosting porn or nudity or more risque stuff.
Right.
And we were both watching and we're like, this is so European. They're just walking around, they're naked, they don't care.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, I'm naked.
Yeah.
And like we're like, I mean,
it's an interesting study on culture.
I'm okay with it, but there's a lot of people who'd be offended.
Right.
Yeah. When I was 12 and it was early 90s, and Terminator 2 came out, and I really wanted to see it, and it was rated R. My entire basis of argument with my parents was there's only violence, no sex or nudity, and they eventually let me go after 3 hours of harassing them. But anyway.
Right.
Okay.
No, that's definitely, it says a lot about our culture.
I think it does.
As Americans. But anyway,
so that's what we do on this show.
That's what we do.
We shine the mirror to, as it were, to humanity.
Such a sophisticated and open-minded show.
That was a Shakespeare reference, I think.
Oh. That went over my head.
We're keeping things highbrow.
Jesus Christ.
I forget the exact...
I can't keep up with this shit. All right, so Gigabyte. They unveiled their new Xeon boards, and we kind of alluded to this in Paul's half of the show.
Yeah.
When he was talking about Xeon chips and whatnot. Well, now you've got some boards, some potential motherboards to kind of house those Xeon chips. The X170 and X150 motherboards are essentially for Skylake Xeon CPUs, and they're going to support ECC memory, and they're based on Intel's C236 and C232 chipsets. But essentially, they've been renamed.
Yeah, no, shut your goddamn mouth right now.
What?
Sorry.
What the fuck?
Okay. Here's...
What the hell are you saying?
I'm sorry, Gigabyte. This irritates the crap out of me.
Why?
When it comes to confusion with PC parts...
Just because it is confusing, yeah.
When it comes to people not knowing what they should buy or what they shouldn't buy or what's compatible or what's not compatible, making up your own chipset name to add to the pile that Intel already has...
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I cannot stand behind it. So X170 and X150 is made up crap by Gigabyte. This is made up. This is not a real chipset. The chipsets these use...
Hashtag Paul Rant.
the chipsets he's using again is C236 and C232, which already have perfectly legitimate 4-digit letter and 3-number names.
Yes, true.
Given to them by Intel. But Gigabyte feels like, for the demographic that they're trying to sell these motherboards to, calling them those names, which most people, I guess, have not heard of. Maybe they have some point.
Right. This is the point I was getting to, is that even though these are the legitimate official chipset names, the C236 and C232...
Yes, the beer's kicked in.
Gigabyte has rebranded these chipsets, which is... I don't know the last time a chipset has been rebranded by a manufacturer of a motherboard.
They're not even allowed to.
I don't even know if they're allowed to, but they've essentially done this, as Paul was saying, to appeal to a wider demographic, or a specific demographic, I should say, that is essentially the PC gaming market. And they're trying to make it sound more flashy and more gamery and more appealing to this market by putting an X in front of it. I feel like X is like so overused now with gaming paraphernalia in the hardware world that we're just starting to see...
Except for Corsair. Corsair doesn't use X enough.
Okay, maybe they need to use X more. They're an anomaly.
Because when I was talking to George at CES and he's talking about naming the what is that the new budget line that they have, the Alpha, the Spec Alpha.
Oh, Spec Alpha.
And he's like, I ran out of names. I couldn't figure out anything. I was like, you could have put an
X in front of it.
He's like, damn it, Paul. You're right.
Where were you?
Could use the X.
That's so true. But anyway, like I agree. This just makes things more confusing and more misleading for the consumer.
But that aside...
But it's going to sell more.
That aside,
it's going to sell more. It's going to work. That's the thing.
That aside, I was very curious when I was introduced to this line of motherboards. For a few different reasons. One, they work with Xeon CPUs that are already out there. And Xeon CPUs, like, every time I do an LGA 1150 build, I get a bunch of people saying, you should use the Xeon, what is it, 1200 V3?
Because it's
V2?
cheaper.
There's a Xeon 1200, crap, I always forget the SKU of it, but it's like $180, $190, quad-core with hyper-threading Xeon.
Yeah.
Slots into a lot of the Z97 boards that are out, and is a very viable quad-core with hyper-threading option that's cheaper than some of the K SKUs that are out there.
Right.
So, I think Xeons are a viable alternative for a gaming machine. You lose out on the overclocking potential. Intel killed that a few years back, much to our dismay.
Right.
But it seems like on the Xeon side, they're a little bit more open with like the types of CPUs they create. Now, if you guys are watching my half of the show, please bear in mind these are LGA 1151 motherboards. They're a completely different socket than that quad-core 5.1 gigahertz one I was talking about. But
that was 2020.
That was LGA 2011 V3 and a variant of that on top of it. So, So, but the fact that Gigabyte has made this, what I thought initially was kind of a weird line of motherboards based on these enterprise chipsets, when you look at that, you're like, well, maybe the Xeon line is more and more viable as like a gaming alternative or a multi-purpose system alternative.
Because some of the benefits of the Xeon chips include not just affordability, where you can save a lot more on Xeon chips than their equivalent desktop counterparts, but also the ECC memory that kind of comes hand in hand with this platform, which pretty much aids in the prevention of data corruption, which also alludes to increased reliability. And a reduction in system crashes. So, I mean, this is like server-grade memory, essentially. When you have that working in a... I mean, think about, like, the different blue screens that you've had with your primary desktop PCs. Like, I remember having issues with the Sleeper PC when I was in Vegas editing footage for CES a couple weeks ago. And my editor could not render a single file because the memory was bad. And this is something that's time and time again an issue with, like, mainstream desktop rigs, is the memory is not very reliable. Usually if something's wrong with the system, like if my mom or my parents call me like, hey, something's not working, check the memory. But with the ECC, a platform that supports ECC, you generally don't see as many reliability issues or stability issues with the memory. So this could be a good thing in turn for gamers at an overall lower cost point when it comes to the CPU itself. Now, granted, you don't get overclocking capabilities, as Paul said. That will be a sacrifice, and the general overall speed of the chip is not quite as robust. But at the same time, if you don't need all the bells and whistles,
Jesus.
if you don't need all the bells and whistles of your CPU to be able to overclock, and you want to save money, and that also means if you don't have to overclock, if you can overclock, you can also save a lot of money on a CPU cooler. You don't have to buy a liquid AIO and spend $100 on it. You can use the stock cooler if you want, if you're on a real tight budget. So there's a lot of different benefits to this type of motherboard.
I wanted to point out real quick, at least thank Twitch chat and the folks who jumped in there. The Xeon processor I was talking about is a 1231 V3. It costs $250-ish, and it is essentially a 4770 without the integrated GPU.
Okay.
And a 4770
will
cost you over $300 still.
Right.
Yeah, so, okay.
Thank
you, Twitch.
Good call. But yeah, I mean, so that's essentially... So, again, circling back to these motherboards, you do get some benefits with some sacrifices as well. But some of the benefits that you get on this platform are kind of akin to the Z170 and B150 platforms. A lot of carbonation in this Rolling Rock.
Rolling Rock.
It's rocking me.
It goes right to your head.
Including M.2 support. So you get M.2 support, as well as SATA Express and even USB 3.1. So,
I have a question.
Pretty formidable.
I have a question from YouTube chat.
What's that?
Do the new boards support the 4790K? Do the new boards, do these specifically
these Xeon ones?
Specifically these Xeon boards that Kyle's talking about, do they support a 4790K? Well, they wouldn't support a 4790K because these are LGA 1151
You wouldn't
boards.
want to put a 4790K in.
But let's translate that question to be, will they support a 6600K or a 6700K, a i7 or an i5? They do officially support the lower end Pentiums and I think some i3 processors.
Mm-hmm.
Will they work with an i7?
I mean...
I cannot wait. I'm trying to...
Are you winking?
I'm trying...
Are you giving him a sign?
No, of course not, Kyle. I'm not trying to...
To hint or...
No, sorry, I got something in my eye there.
You're a little bit dusty there. There must be some...
We'll have to get one of these boards in an i7 and just try it out and see.
Yes, absolutely. Gigabyte,
my question would be, is if it works with an i7, like, is there any semblance of overclocking?
Probably not.
Are these boards significantly cheaper
Definitely
than a Z170 alternative?
Right.
That would be my question.
The price to performance is what I'd be most curious about. Is it worth getting...
If you could get an i7 6700 non-K...
Right.
For $20 or $30 cheaper than the K version, and one of these boards for $30 or $40 cheaper than a Z170...
Yeah. Seeing where the price to performance lines
maybe that's
up.
worth your while. Maybe that's worth your while. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
or if maybe, Paul, they just like the new military desert camo skin that's been implemented on these boards as well. That's part of the charm here.
Is it charming, Kyle?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, it might be more charming if the aesthetic of these boards matched a little bit more closely to Noctua fans, because then it'd be like, finally a motherboard that matches these hideous Noctua fans that are so well performing.
They're very close.
But just very hideous. But maybe it could. Maybe the photos don't do it justice. Maybe these are like the perfect board that enthusiasts need to create like a fully fledged, good-looking Noctua fan-based system with a motherboard to boot that matches it well. Because hot damn, and I don't think the Digicamo looks bad. I think it's a good look for these boards. I like how they've also kind of gone with the DRAM slots as well as the PCIe, by 16 slots. It looks pretty good. At least the one on the left. The one on the right looks a little bit more bare bones and
with the yellowish.
With the yellow
track lighting.
I don't think that's doing it any favors.
No.
But I see a lot less of that on the premium extreme board, as they say.
I feel like if they're doing this, they're doing it for a budget market anyway. So these more budget-oriented X150
there's no
boards
overclocking. Yeah.
might be. They're also workstation-oriented. So yeah, somebody who's into stability. maybe, I don't know.
Maybe if you've been traumatized by like bad memory, bad RAM in the past, this might be the board for you. Which honestly I've had several run-ins with bad memory and my system giving me hell because one stick of the 2 or 4 DIMMs that I had in there were bad. Maybe not such a bad solution just for peace of mind. You know, if you're willing to give up the overclockability of your chip. But let's move on to the next story because we've got a lot of other stuff to cover, which is the GTX 980MX and the 970MX GPUs. These are the upcoming release of 2 new flagship mobile chips reported by Hardware Battle.
Look at this quote they have here. Give me desktop performance, says #1 notebook gamer desire. What?
That sounds so anime and Asian.
That sounds terrible.
That's Asian.
That's bad. That's
#1 notebook gamer desire. This doesn't make
grammatical,
any sense.
like journalistic, and other problems going on.
We need Jason Evangelo now.
All right. So why, aside from the 970M and the 980M and the already announced and already available 980 desktop GPU in a laptop, why are these needed as well?
My guess is that this is going to be kind of like a middle point, like kind of a midpoint between the 980M, the existing 980M, and the full-fledged 980 GTX 980 desktop inside of a notebook. Because you're kind of going to get like the middle road here, where it's higher performance. Essentially, a 980MX rivals the speed of a GTX 970, a full-fledged desktop 970.
What did a 980M do then?
A 980M was less than a 970.
Like a 960?
Probably maybe between a 960 and a 970.
Why'd they call it a fucking 980 then?
Because marketing.
Because marketing.
Because money, Paul.
Okay,
because
sorry.
the monies. Hashtag Paul rant.
Sorry.
Hashtag Paul rant.
No more rants. No more rants. I've been used up for today.
You know what really grinds my gears?
If I could find stuff to get pissed out.
Can this be a segment of Awesome Hardware in the future? Like what really grinds your gears? Like a Paul for your. Like, specifically for your half of the show? You should do a Grinds My Gears segment. That would be fucking epic.
Well, Logan already has Rant 30. So
yeah, but he has Rant 30. But
so
I mean,
I would need to distinguish it enough from that.
It's already distinguished just because you're doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Kyle.
No one's used to you showing that much emotion in a single setting. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's how we roll. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of specs here. You go ahead and, like, look it up. I'm not going to read you all the specs. Essentially, the 980MX, and I proceed to read you all the specs, 980MX and the 970MX will both have the same TDP of 125 watts, as well as the same core clock and memory clock of 941 megahertz for the core clock and 5 gigahertz for the memory clock. Except the 980MX will have a higher memory bandwidth of 160 gigabytes per second, as opposed to 120 gigabytes per second for the 970MX. But you can expect to see these really high-end mobile GPUs appear in such laptops in Q2 of 2016. It'll be interesting to see how these new chips from NVIDIA will stack up against the Polaris chips that you were just talking about in your half of the show.
Yes.
Because that first, they're making 2 models of Polaris. One for the high-end GPU desktop market, and the second half for the small form factor and mobile GPU market. So we're going to kind of be able to see kind of a comparison probably within this year of how those two stack up against each other as well. Not only against the 980MX or the 970MX, but also Pascal mobile GPUs as well. So
yes.
There's a lot of uncertainty here, or unsurely. Is that what you said?
Well, I mean,
unsurely.
The laptop, the mobile GPU space is very important.
Yes.
Much as most of us who focus more on desktop would like to ignore it.
Sure.
It is very important. It dictates a lot of the stuff that they've done. I think a big reason NVIDIA has focused a lot on minimal power consumption in past years has been to kind of hit both of those markets.
Right.
980 desktop in a laptop, I think, is an example of that.
Right.
So yeah, I fully expect to see Polaris. The lower wattage, lower fewer. The smaller versions of Polaris used
more
in
efficient
mobile. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so that's pretty much going to do it for that section of the news. We're going to move on to the games report, where we talk about video games and what's been happening in the PC gaming industry, y'all.
We have a lower thirds for it.
We do.
I don't know how that works.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Don't expect that kind of consistency and support for the rest of the show. But we have it now, and that's what you should be focused on. So the first story that I want to talk about in the games report, where we talk about gaming news, is Insurgency. Now, Insurgency, if you guys don't know it already, it's a big, very big game on Steam.
It's huge.
It's huge. It's a huge indie game. I wouldn't say it's indie. That's kind of indie.
What a terrible screenshot.
It's a terrible screenshot.
What is... Oh, okay.
Shame on you, WCCF
now I
Tech.
can see there's a dude...
Going prone.
This is Normandy.
Going prone on Normandy.
Is this Normandy? It's World War
Yeah.
II, so right, yeah.
But essentially, Insurgency is an amazing tactical... Oh. Jesus Christ. I'm probably not the best hype man for this right now. I'm probably like... I'm like the worst wingman ever. Like, yeah, he totally wants to... in the face, you know? Yeah, probably not. Probably not the best. This beer... The Rolling Rock has rocked me. I've been rocked by the rock. So, essentially what we're saying, what I'm trying to say here, is Insurgency is a fantastic game.
It's wonderful.
It's wonderful, as Paul would say. I've played it extensively with some buddies of mine. It's a really fun tactical shooter that really strikes a refreshing balance between kind of a one-life gameplay where you only have one life, so there's this kind of sense of tension that you need to stay alive, but also prolonged action. So if you do get killed in that session, it's not too long where you have to wait until you get to play again. So they've kind of struck a nice, really nice balance there. But essentially, Insurgency, this game, has received a World War II...
A WTF.
A WW2... That's not like WWF. A World War II themed mod, which they're calling Day of Infamy.
Oh.
Now available on Steam Workshop, which essentially, if you're already a fan of the franchise and you've been playing it extensively or even just a little bit, they now have like a World War II skin on top of that, which is pretty awesome as far as the screenshots that I've seen, yeah, you guys should check that. I mean, obviously, what were we laughing about?
It's not you, because you're like, Insurgency is basically you're like practically vomited all over your
like
laptop.
I was just about to give them such high praise, and then I literally vomited all over it.
We need
that
needs a GIF with sound.
But this is exciting. Do you have Insurgency? You do, right? I feel like we forced you to download it at some point.
I have it. I don't think I've actually played it though.
Okay.
With much apologies.
I know Sal in chat are one of our great mods. He's a distinguished veteran of Insurgency. I had the privilege of playing with Sal and Mikey.
He's like one of the devs. Right?
I think he's one of the voice actors of the game. Like
VO?
he did like 90% of the voice acting.
Yeah.
But when you hear his voice, you know why, because he's like, hey, that's good. Like he's got a really deep
I think Josh was talking about playing,
powerful voice.
Josh was talking about playing with him, and he can just like say stuff in voice chat that people thinks is the game talking to them, which is just brilliance, which is like absolutely wonderful.
This needs to be
trolling
recorded
and
published everywhere. That's
yeah,
fucking awesome.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, but really great.
He's the voice and community manager.
Community manager as well. That's right.
Thank you, squad leader.
But they're an awesome team. I've had the privilege of meeting with a few of them, at least online, and it's an amazing game. So if you guys are interested at all in World War II themes or tactical shooters in general, go ahead and check out Insurgency. You can find them on Steam. It's really not that expensive of a game either, so there's not much to lose. Go ahead and check it out. It's a really fun-ass shooter if you like FPS. So, moving on, we've got Half-Life 2.
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Now, there was no Half-Life 3. That would have been awesome clickbait,
Sorry.
but I still feel like there was a bit of clickbaitiness in this article here, WCCF Tech, where they're saying there's a Half-Life 2 sequel on the rise.
They never clickbait. Kyle.
They never. They're totally innocent of ever doing that sort of thing. Where I would say this is more of a spin-off sequel, not a full-fledged sequel, because what you'll see is that the story follows Adrian Shepard, which those of you of the Half-Life, very familiar with the Half-Life series know that Adrian Shepard was a U.S. Marine from the Half-Life opposing force title. More burps on the way. Who was called out during the events, during the same events of Half-Life 2 to help out Gordon Freeman. Now, essentially, this is a standalone title that was developed by one dude, Richard Seabrook, in about a year and a half. And Valve has just given the green light, no pun intended, to have this released as a full-fledged title. Now, granted, it's not a Half-Life 2 sequel, in my opinion. It is more of a spin-off sequel that is completely fan-made. But nonetheless, if you're a huge fan of the series, you'll probably get a kick out of this, because the guys spent a lot of time perfecting it, and the price is only $10 on Steam or so. The article listed the price of the game in British pounds, so I converted it, and it came out to be about $10 USD. So
good.
That's probably about what you pay for it. Which, I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. For a full-fledged, it's probably going to take you 4 or 5 hours to finish. So not a bad deal.
Depends on barometric pressure and that kind of thing.
Yes.
It says it's a VR spinoff. Is there VR involved?
It says it's not a VR spinoff.
Oh, it's not a VR spinoff.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to read the word before the
common misconception, Paul.
It's okay.
Totally okay. But yeah, just want to point that out. Not much else to say there. I don't want to hype it up too much because I haven't played it personally. But if you're a fan of the series, go ahead and check it out.
Slightly related story from 11 months ago. HTC apologizes for exploding the internet by mentioning Half-Life 3. I saw something posted on Twitter earlier today or yesterday.
Yeah.
HTC Half-Life 3 confirmed?
No.
No? Okay.
I doubt it.
All right.
That seems wrong.
Just a theory.
I have to pee again.
This is your half of the show,
Kyle. I know, but I have to pee so badly.
If you leave on your half of the show, I will have nothing to say. I'm just going to sit here silently. And
That's okay. That's okay. You can... I don't care. You could just take your shirt off and
I'm not gonna
entertain
take my shirt
them.
off.
Then just...
There will be no entertainment.
Even if you sat here silently, people would watch you.
It's gonna be
That's how much power you have.
It's going to be 2 minutes of practically nothing.
That's perfect. I don't even need 2 minutes. I'm gonna pee like a racehorse. I'll be in and out in like half a second. All right.
We're gonna time you.
I really am sorry. I have to go so bad. Oh my god. It's late. I saw you! I caught you red-handed drinking my beer.
Why?
That is fucked up.
Why would I drink?
Oh, you're turning red. You're turning red like you always do.
I'm always red because I've been drinking, Kyle.
That is bullshit. That is objection, Your Honor.
If only there was some video record of what went on while you were gone that you could reference. And
I don't even need a video record. I just need chat. Chat?
Tell
me. Chat will tell me. They have no honor. They have no allegiance or loyalty.
You can look right now at what the hell. You can watch what I was doing right now.
Which is grabbing my beer.
Yes.
Inspecting it.
Yeah, okay.
And about to... Okay.
And then I heard you coming.
Yep.
And I put them back. That was all.
Why would you?
And then you came in, pointing in my face, accusing me.
Why would you do that?
Me
Why would you be
with such hatred?
Were you like trying to like grab fingerprints off of my can or bottle? What were you?
I was gonna combine the two of them, but there was like barely any Rolling Rock and no Chelada left. So there was.
You were gonna put Chelada in my Rolling Rock?
Yes, you're gonna be screwed.
All right. Well, that still incriminates you as a backstabbing bastard.
Maybe you would have drank it,
son of a bitch.
Maybe it would have been a delicious new treat that you would never.
I'm done with both of them. You will never have that opportunity.
You would never have otherwise discovered.
You, sir, are a horrible man. Okay.
I'm innocent.
Should I introduce the next story?
You should.
It is so there was a nice article from Wes Fenian of PC Gamer, who kind of posted his findings on the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive, which, as we all know, most of us know, are the two biggest competitors right now in the head-mounted display market in terms of VR. The Oculus Rift just went on pre-order a couple weeks ago. Both Paul and I believe, pre-ordered it, so we're already signed on for the Rift. We're Team Rift, but there's some very
I've decided I hate the Vive now since I pre-ordered a Rift.
Right, it's totally like inferior.
Vive
right?
sucks.
It's amazing how quickly you become a fanboy of something when you pre-order it.
I spent money on it. It better be good.
It is. I'm convinced everything else sucks because I didn't spend my money on it. But it's interesting what Wes found when he
sexy pictures.
When he got to compare. I know, it was like Hardware Canuck status. So Wes was able to kind of take a look at both of these headsets back to back at CES this year, just a few weeks ago. And he found a few different interesting findings that I thought were pretty interesting. I'm very repetitive in that sentence. But anyway, first off, he claims that the Vive, actually, this kind of surprised me, it offers a much wider field of view. Not actually wider, I should say, but in terms of verticality. So you actually get a lot more vertical space with the HTC Vive as far as like what the screen is displaying to your eyeballs, which is, it doesn't fill your entire view, but it is still a big plus over the Rift, which I thought, wow, that's, maybe I pre-ordered the wrong headset, for a second. That seems like a bit more immersive if you're not seeing like black bars, on top and below your image. He said the Rift feels more like you're looking through a window, which, I don't know. I feel like that part of it defeats the purpose of a VR experience where you're completely immersed. But both headsets, nonetheless, are still using the same OLED display, so they look identical in terms of like clarity and whatnot, with very little screen door effect, which is good. Both also have an IPD or interpupillary distance adjustment wheel.
Is that a word?
Interpupillary distance.
There's no. That's like
pupillary. It's one of those words that just became created. It just got made.
The interpupillary distance is the distance between you and the Pope. And
no, not pupillary. It's pupillary,
which is needed for your triangulation.
Interpupillary.
Interpupillary. That's exactly.
No,
what
not
you said.
pupillary. Pupillary. like the pulp, like the pulp of an orange, not the Pope of the Catholic Church. Hear me out here. I'm trying my best, trying to convey.
Interpupillary.
Interpupillary.
Does it wear the
I don't know what it has
hat?
to do with oranges.
Does it have the big hat?
The distance away from the Pope's hat is essentially what this wheel adjusts.
We need to. Oh, I completely forgot to stop the time when you came back from the bathroom.
I've been gone for 6 minutes, apparently.
For 6 minutes.
That's a long
we'll have to look back at the... All right, let's keep it together. Let's keep it together here.
Yes. Okay. So, same display. They have the same adjustment wheel to sharpen the image, focus, or clarity. I would attribute this to like the focus wheel on a pair of high-end binoculars.
Oh, okay.
Where you're looking a certain distance away, and there's like a little wheel or a knob that you can adjust to kind of like clarify things.
So if the Pope is
fuck you and your Pope analogy and your Pope demonstration. It's not relevant to the case of the story at all.
Depending how far the Pope is from you.
No, there's nothing. It's pulpillary. Pulp. It's fucking pulp. Do you not know what pulp is? Thank you all for watching this episode of Awesome Hardware.
This is the best show ever.
This is the most deranged we've ever been.
There's never been a better show. My eyes will keep watering. Okay.
So despite some strange lens reflection in the peripherals of his eyesight that Fenian was describing with the Rift headset, he also said that the Rift was a lot more comfortable and lightweight than the Vive. 5 or 10 minutes into using the Vive, he was getting neck fatigue.
The Vive is pretty substantial.
It is. It kind of protrudes a lot more further out from where it's initially mounted to your head. So that I could see how that would be the case of causing neck fatigue. And it does have a much more sizable weight to it than the Rift. So he said because the Vive is heavier and it is kind of protrudes more, that you actually have to strap it down to your head using the head strap a lot tighter than you would the Rift.
Okay.
The Rift is much lighter and less cumbersome, so you don't have to like strap it to your skull as tightly, which adds for more comfort. Whereas the Vive, he felt, seemed more demanding of the strapping to your head, and because of that, felt less like a refined consumer product, whereas the Rift really did feel like something that you would just buy in a store. It's good to go. There's a really nice, like, I don't know if it's not leather. What is it? Fabric. It has a fabric covering to aid in comfort and things like that. So ultimately, this comes down to the price of each one. We already know that the Rift for pre-order right now is $600. We've heard speculation that the HTC Vive would be upwards to $1,500, but we haven't...
An amendment to that.
An amendment to your earlier article on that story?
The $1,500 number apparently was traced back to like a single article on a... I don't know where the website was from. It was a foreign website, though. It's foreign, not U.S. Therefore, we don't trust it.
Of course.
I'm just kidding.
Fuck the other countries.
But we
America.
We view it with slightly less trust.
Sure.
But yeah, basically it was like one person who was like, maybe it could cost this much. It was not
right.
As,
it wasn't.
It was not as confirmed or that kind of thing. I mean,
right.
Obviously the Oculus is $600 right now.
Yeah.
If you want to pre-order it.
And that's what I was thinking is there's no way they could release it for that much
yeah,
when the
Rift
like
way too much.
When the Rift is only $600, that's less than half the cost. So
yeah,
but apart from price, even if the two headsets are $100 or $200 apart, other huge factors in people's purchasing decisions include what kind of games are supported for each of those headsets. Because if it's kind of like the whole like Xbox versus PlayStation debacle of like which platform would you go for? I mean, granted, you'd go for PC. But if you were in that console territory, it kind of comes down to which of these platforms offers the games that I really want to play, because it is all about the games and the gameplay in each of them. So
I feel like if at launch the Oculus is really more of a sit down experience, which it kind of is right now from the hardware that they're selling. I have used it in other situations where they've used like an Xbox Kinect to enhance the experience and see what your whole body is doing at the same time. But that was a very specific demo they were showing.
Yeah.
Out of the box experience, though, it seems like Oculus is going to be more of a sit-down experience.
Yeah.
It's like you can play Eve Valkyrie out of the box with it.
Right.
Fly around, do some dogfighting. It's pretty awesome. But Vive is that like you're standing in a room. It's got two boxes on corners of the room. It's watching your whole body and where you move and that kind of thing.
Right.
If it can offer a more like in-depth experience like that, then I think they can get away with charging a couple $100, maybe even a few $100 more than what the Oculus is charging.
True.
But yeah,
no one's gonna want to wear it if it's uncomfortable as hell.
That's very true.
But we'll have to see.
And that's one thing that all of the VR headsets still have, is you're still wearing a big ass thing on the front of your face. So you can't get around that.
Yeah.
The Vive is bigger than the Oculus right now.
It is a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, priorities. Priorities. Where will they lie? We don't know until we know.
Twitch chat is disappointed that we are not slurring or vomiting yet.
Well, there's always time. We still have a good half an hour of the show.
Oh wait,
left.
weren't we supposed to ask people this or something?
Oh yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to know. Guys, go ahead and vote in chat. Which head-mounted display are you currently interested in? I know there's probably a good amount of you that are leaning one way or another in terms of HTC Vive versus Oculus Rift for different reasons altogether, which I'm sure both are valid on either side. So go ahead and let us know in the straw poll there that we posted in chat which one you're currently leaning towards. Because I don't know. I feel like it could go either way at this point, where it's almost too early to tell, and I feel like that's also why there's such a polarizing result. But
yeah, and obviously, guys, this is an early question for y'all since we don't know what the Vive will cost.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah,
just kind of expectations as they lie currently. Yeah. So the last story that I want to talk about on the Games Report is Black Desert. Have you heard of Black Desert, Paul?
No.
Okay. Well, good. Black Desert. You've heard of it now. This is in the article. It's been described as the game where, like, even if you don't know too much about it, at the very least you've heard that this is that one game with the crazy character creator. And they actually came out with a demo of this character creator like months and months ago. I think we might have either talked about it on the show on one of the episodes way back in 2015, or we just saw it somewhere else. But essentially, it's got this really in-depth character creator to it. First of all, it's an MMO. It's an action MMO RPG, and it's free to play, I believe, in certain countries. But in the U.S., I think you do have to pay for it. But the character creator is so in-depth and so detailed that they're actually releasing it as a standalone download, where you can start creating your character now and then import it into your future beta release, into the beta release when the game becomes live, or into the actual full retail release that launches later on. The beta of which is launching February 18th. But this content creator does look pretty insane. I haven't talked to anyone personally who's actually experienced it and used it and fooled around with it, but it does look pretty crazy. And I think
should I click on any of these suggested videos from YouTube for
make a zombie
what to watch? Like Black Desert Online,
hot and
ugly female. You can make both an attractive female and an ugly female.
Or she's hot with like a touch of ugliness, where it's like
or naughty time.
Ooh, it's naughty time
too.
See, that was the other question of this character creator that I had, was honestly the one question that this boils down to is how big can we make the boobs? How big can the boobs be?
The boob slider.
The boob slider. What does it go up to?
It should not have a maximum. You should be able to.
You should be infinite.
Able to max it out.
Till eventually, like, you can't even see the camera anymore. It's just two boobs. You just see the crevice.
And and that is.
I mean,
it teaches us all a lesson about life.
That boobs are.
Boobs
are magical. And should always be first and foremost, front and center.
And apparently you said broobs.
You know what? Broobs are the future. Broobs are the fucking future. Fuck boobs. It's all about broobs now. If you don't know what broobs are, I feel sorry for you.
So, do you know anything about Black Desert Online apart from what you know about the character creator?
I know that I don't know anything.
All right, so
that's it. That's all I know. Oh,
I'm trying. What I'm trying to do for Kyle's half of the show is just give you guys a quick summary at the end of each story.
Yeah.
Summary here. Boobs don't get big enough. Black Desert Online.
Probably not. All
right.
Poor broobs. Poor broobs.
Broobs.
Let's move on to Pimp My PC,
Yay!
y'all. Hey,
Pimp My PC.
PC. Let's take a look at some of y'all PCs that you sent in today.
So familiar.
So familiar.
Happy.
No broobs in sight.
No broobs.
It's beautiful. Okay, so this first one's from Ivan. By the way, Pimp My PC.
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead and scroll down. You can see some more computers. The blatant ripoff segment from Matt Philly on Swashing TV. Go ahead and check him out on YouTube. Does a great show called Pimp My Setup. So great that, in fact, that we ripped off his entire idea for the show.
He has a Chief Tech case.
Yeah, this is a really old school case. It's kept in great condition.
Wow.
But at the same time, I feel like it's a bit limiting for your hardware. It feels very tight and compact in here, and also the fact that it's
you
not
still
like
got the sticker
black
on
painted.
it that shows you how to install
How to
optical
install
drives and 3.5-inch drives.
This case is so old, the manual is printed inside of it. Yeah. This is an old school case. But granted, you have some pretty nice components in here. You've got a 550 watt Newton power supply from Fractal, which is a great power supply. Got a decent CPU
That's
cooler.
Edison power supply.
Oh, is it Edison? Nah, fuck it. Whatever. They're all the same to me.
Edison is 80 plus bronze. The Newtons
80
Newtons
plus
are gold, I believe.
Oh, they're fancy.
Or no, Newtons are platinum.
Shows you how much priority they put on those special figures. Okay, and then we've got a pretty decent video card. You've got a...
I like these pictures. They don't look like all like he didn't take them in post production or anything, but they're very clear. You can see what's going on.
Yeah.
And there's lots of them.
Yes, there are. Honestly, dude, I think you need a new case. I think that's probably what's holding you back here in terms of just cleanliness and spatial. I don't know, like.
Spatial awareness.
Spatial awareness. I think
that's not what you're looking for, but
no, not at all. But
Edison is Edison is gold. Cell says.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Cell. Sorry about that. What's the bronze? What do I have?
Maybe bronze is Newton.
I have a bronze. I don't know.
Integra?
Care.
No, that's
you're
different.
Yeah, I think that's an Acura. Car.
Yeah, right.
God damn it!
But there is an eye, right, with the fractal power supplies. Fractal.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna find out right now.
Integra. I was right. I'm right. I know things.
Wait, so what is it? This is an Edison.
You can't slap me now.
So Newton is platinum.
Edison's bronze.
Gold.
Gold. And then Integra's bronze.
And Integra is bronze.
Yeah.
That's what because Integra, there's no famous scientist named Integra, as far as I know. Anyway, okay.
Integra's just a fancy,
thank you, Sal.
accurate car.
Thank you for the correction. Yes. So, how does Sal know so much about fractal power supplies?
He's a fanboy.
I'm suspicious.
You're a fractal fanboy, Sal. I feel like you're working for them.
Okay, so...
What else?
Yeah, new case.
Yeah.
Like,
everything else looks good.
That is all.
Yeah.
Like,
your cable management would follow.
You have done everything you can with your existing case, and I applaud you for it.
Yes,
it looks like a really good. You for it.
Yeah.
But the next step here is a new case.
Yeah. When you go down a little bit, right there.
Where? This one?
Yeah, this one. Like look at how clean his drives are wired.
Yeah.
Like it's very well cabled.
And in a crappy case without much like space behind the motherboard,
that goes a long way.
That's hard, and it's hard to do. It takes some time.
Yeah.
So yeah, new case.
Yep. Thank you very much, Ivan. Good looking out, bro. We've got Mike.
Yep.
Mike, you've got a okay. We've got a PC here. There's a lot of interesting things going on here.
Cooler Master. I don't know what power or what CPU cooler that is. He has a Devil video card.
Is that a master? No, it's not a master case. That's an older case.
No, it's older.
Okay, there's a lot of different color coordination going on here. I'm not sure what's up with the blue PCI expansion slots, but I feel like it's not really matching with much in the case other than maybe your USB 3.0 cable.
990FX killer motherboard, Fatality. So it's an AMD system.
Black and red, I'd say, is your best bet in terms of a color scheme here.
It's an R9 270X Devil video card.
Ketchup and mustard isn't doing you any favors.
And a Corsair 750 watt power supply. So yeah.
I feel like this also needs to benefit from another case, from a new case. Because I don't know.
Why is this highlighted? Go away, highlight.
The case just feels very budget to me, and I think you've got some decent components in here that are worthy of a new case.
But look at it. The case is completely painted black on the inside.
Sure.
Apart from those PCI Express, or the PCI expansion slot covers, which are blue, which don't match with anything. And I do not know whether those came with the case that way, or whether they were painted that way. But apart from that, if you were to remove everything from here, you'd still have this ugliness here. You'd still have this ugliness here.
You use new power supply.
You'd still have, yeah. So...
And a case.
Yeah.
The reason why I can tell this as a budget case is because there's no rubber grommets in the motherboard tray cutouts.
Yeah,
they're kind of just open slots, which indicates to me that it's a lower end case. But like the fact that you have a devil card from Power Color indicates to me that, like, you know, you can probably like spice it up with maybe like one of those red and black H440s from NZXT or something like that, which would overall increase your aesthetic points in terms of like the cosmetic look of your rig, because really the components you have here, other than the case, look pretty good. I feel like especially those blue PCI expansion slots are throwing you off a lot. Getting a new power supply, especially in there, if you added a new case, would help a lot in terms of just making things look a lot more cohesive.
A new case and power supply with a red and black theme
would go a long way.
Would match up everything nicely here. Also pointed out by chat. Sorry I missed who said it, but your front rad doesn't really look like it's mounted all the way. It looks a little off.
Looks a little crooked.
It's leaning.
Looks like there was some kind of MacGyvering there.
Yeah.
So just make sure that's on secure. At least the fact that it's getting intake. Hopefully it's getting intake. I hope that there's fans at the front of that, and that it's not just a rad that is left naked and neglected. But thank you very much, Mike. Hopefully
Thanks, Mike.
that helps out a bit. Next up, we've got Mr. Random, or M Random. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it.
M Random Interviews.
M Random Interviews. My cable management sucks. N200 is shit. What's a good affordable case? ATX preferred. Okay, so there's a lot of cabling here.
Whoa.
Like, there's so much ketchup and mustard here. Like, bring on the chicken McNuggets. I could dip for days in this ketchup and mustard here. I mean, honestly, if you remove if you removed everything that was yellow and red in this chassis, it would look really clean, because everything else looks pretty solid. I mean, you've got red dims to go with, you know,
he has what
the
appears,
red cabling.
It's what appears to be a Hyper-2 12 with Noctua fans on it.
Yeah.
Which would probably perform really well. I bet that's I bet that's a great cooler.
Push-pull.
So,
with Noctuas.
I do not. I would say hang on to that.
Yes.
Even though aesthetically it's not good, it's probably it's probably giving you the best bang for buck at anything in this system.
Get some custom sleeves with like brown, yellow, and red. Like the ugliest cable cables ever it could work.
That Thermaltake power supply obviously is causing you a lot of aesthetic problems.
Sticker off.
So you're either going to need to sleeve it yourself, which is a very time-consuming process, and I might not recommend for something like that, or just get yourself a new power supply.
Definitely get a new one.
And guys, anyone in chat have any suggestions? A good ATX reasonably priced case that looks pretty nice. I have some ideas in my head, but I'd like to know what you guys think as far as suggestions here. Is there cardboard? Oh, there's cardboard on the bottom. What is the cardboard on the bottom?
That looks like it's just so that it's not on the carpet. So
it also looks like it's only plugged into a two-prong. It's not grounded properly. And is it on the ground?
What, the system itself?
See
right
this
here?
gray plug right there? I don't know if
How do we know if that's going to the
that is what is providing the system with power, but if
that looks like
if
Ethernet, dude.
If so, it is not Oh, is it? Oh, you're right.
See the clip?
You're right. Okay, never mind then.
Yeah.
Never mind what I just said.
It must be something off-site.
Everyone says start from scratch, get a defined S, a 650D, an S340. S340 is also a great option.
Good. Yeah.
An R5 would be a great option. An Enthoo Pro M.
Yeah, that's one of the...
This is a micro ATX, so it's a micro ATX chassis. So stick with micro ATX.
TJ08 is one of my favorite micro ATX cases from Silverstone, so that might be a good option too.
Yeah, an S340 or an Enthoo Pro M. Great suggestions from chat here. For any of you guys who are in chat, thank you for sending those in.
Definitely get a new power supply, bro.
Yeah, but Miss M Random power supply and case, and I think you'll be in a much better situation.
Yep, Hobo Crust.
And if you send this back to us, we will not give you a hard time about your CPU cooler.
Hobo Crust sends in his rig in a Define S, it looks like, with a Be Quiet cooler. I am a sucker for Be Quiet coolers. I think they're awesome, even though they're kind of a pain in the ass to install, but you've got a pretty nice system here. it doesn't need as much help as the last one in terms of cable management. It looks like you've got most of it figured out. There could be a bit tidying up, especially from the rear exhaust fan that has a cable kind of just gliding across your video card, the top of your video card, over to the 3-pin or 4-pin connector there. But I think in terms of cleanliness, you're pretty much on top of things. I think the only thing that could really help you at this point would be a new power supply. Well, I wouldn't say a new power supply, but maybe some extensions that you could get to kind of cover up those ketchup and mustard cables that are going to your 24-pin ATX. It doesn't look like your CPU, your 8-pin EPS connector is really that well seen, so that might not be an issue. But in terms of your PCIe and your ATX cables, those need to be sleeved at least in order to kind of give your whole rig an overall cleaner look. I would say go with red and black, man. Red, black, and white, actually. I would definitely go with red, black, and white, because you've got black from the case, it's a black painted interior, but you've got red on your video card, and you've got white from just the nature of the Define S. A lot of Fractal cases have this black and white color scheme already to boot, so if you're going to throw in a red video card in there, I think going with a red, black, and white color-themed sleeve cables would be a really nice touch. The other issue, though, is your motherboard, and how that might not necessarily line up with that color scheme. So what do you have to say about that, Paul?
Alright, Kyle, who's been giving good advice, it's all been based purely on aesthetics. I'm going to go the other way, and
Bullshit.
the opposite way of Pimp My PC and say,
Bullshit.
I think you've done everything you can as far as aesthetics with the hardware that you have. The first thing I would upgrade here is your processor. You have a G3258, overclocked to 4 gigahertz.
Yeah.
Way to go there. But keep an eye out for 4770Ks, 4690Ks, 4790Ks on the cheap that people might be selling off because they're upgrading.
Yeah.
Keep your eye out on the secondary market for those. You might find them at retail, but if you really want a deal, secondary market, eBay is going to be the way to go. Upgrade your main processor. That's going to give you a lot better performance because the dual-core G3258, even overclocked, it's nice, but if you want to play newer games, that's going to be, I think, your biggest bang for the buck improvement. Once you do that, you could also consider upgrading the graphics card. A 370 is pretty nice, though.
Yeah.
I would say
card.
CPU first, and then look at next-gen hardware and maybe upgrading to a new platform.
Yeah, you really need a quad-core in there.
Yeah. Beyond that, all the stuff Kyle said is very, very viable, very valid. Definitely a new power supply could keep things a little bit prettier. But I think the biggest thing you can do as far as like what you can do with your system, practically speaking, is going to be upgrading in that processor.
Yeah.
But the G3258 is a fabulous starter processor.
Yeah.
Especially if you overclock it. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Hubacrust.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got Mark. He's got a Z77 motherboard with a GTX 980 Ti, so a high-end system, absolutely. It didn't say what his specs were in terms of his... Okay, 3770K. Okay. Older generation, but still a very formidable CPU. Absolutely, I would not need to upgrade that at all. You've got two 120 gig Intel 730 SSDs, very good solid-state drives, and 16 gigs of memory, 850 watt power supply. Okay, overall, this has potential to be a very clean-looking system. Did he say it was in a 750D? It looks like a 750D from the picture, but it doesn't say in his. Doesn't say
700D.
700D.
Is that a thing?
No, it's not a thing. There's a typo there. 750D.
Yeah, it's gotta be. Wait, no. Wait, what? There's a 700D.
There's a 700D.
Okay.
Jesus Christ! Where have I been all this time?
Snuck by me there.
Okay, 700D. I stand corrected, sir. What? It just has no side panel window.
That's huge.
That's pretty big.
That's really big. Really? What?
So it looks like you've got both of the drive cages in there at the bottom of your case, but you only have one.
No, this is not
That's
the
not
same
the case
though.
Oh, you're right. Because
he's got to have a
3,
750.
4, 5.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
The drive cage is not the same, and the 700D has a separator between the power supply
Right,
and the
it
rest.
has a compartment. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is definitely a 750D, I think. But all the same, you have two drive cages in there, and only like 10% of it is being used. So I would remove that I would probably remove both drive cages and try to stick your 3.5-inch mechanical in the 5.25-inch bay there, just to free up all the room in your in the front of your case for additional airflow coming from the front there. I like the color coordination and kind of like the gunmetal gray that you've opted for with the GTX 980 Ti with that Zotac card. I think that matches beautifully with your motherboard, that Asus armor there. But I think your whole system kind of needs to be revisited and dusted, and it looks pretty dusty at this point. Your fans and your hard drive cages, it looks like you haven't really cleaned the system in a while. I think it probably does need a good cleaning, just to give it that new, refreshed feeling, and also rip off the stickers of that power supply, that XFX. I know they're pretty color neutral and they don't really clash in terms of color aesthetic or color palette with the rest of your system, but I'm not a huge fan of the stickers myself. I think it would just kind of blend in more nicely and give more attention to your main components like your motherboard and your video card there. Paul, anything to add?
No, not really. Yeah, your power supply is probably the most outdated thing on there. Oh, it is 80 plus bronze, the Pro 850. XFX does not make power supplies anymore. That's not a reason to get rid of your power supply. Again, you have an 850 watt bronze PSU, but bronze has become kind of the entry level for power supplies. So upgrading to a gold power supply with better cabling and then cleaning and recabling your system could make it much cleaner, give you a little bit more money in your pocket when it comes to your power bill. I'd say that would be your best option overall.
To also find a power supply that has black sleeved cables from the get-go. So you don't have to spend extra money on those extensions, and it already looks good out of the box. That would kind of it would kill two birds with one stone. Yep. It would give you a nicer looking and more reliable power supply with better cost efficiency and better cost savings for your power bill, even if your parents might be paying for it at the moment. But also it would give your rig a nice, cleaner aesthetic with those black cables and cover up that ugly yellow and mustard, even though it is kind of loosely sleeved with that translucent sleeving. But yes. Thank you so much, Mark, for sending that in. Ultimately an awesome rig, and it's a 750D, I'm pretty sure.
It is 100% a 750D, yes.
Yeah. Next we've got Ron Resnick sitting in, which looks like a high-end build, actually. Kind of a mishmash here. We've got a Core i5-3470, so an older generation mid-range CPU, but we've got a high-end GTX 970 G1 gaming motherboard from Gigabyte. So kind of a mishmash here. I think you're perfectly fine, honestly, with this combination of CPU and GPU. I don't think one is bottlenecking the other. I think your CPU is still pretty solid, even though you can't do any overclocking as it is not a K-SKU.
Did you look at this?
I haven't seen that angle.
I don't know what to think about this.
The wheel, the casters?
Yeah, he's got like a little board with casters on it that the computer sits on.
Right.
Which saves it from being on the floor.
Yeah. And maybe he's in a situation where he frequently needs to roll his system around. I mean, that could be very possible. Or maybe sometimes he needs it on the left side of his desk, sometimes he needs it on the right side, or maybe in another room altogether. I'm not sure, but I think the fact that it is on casters and kind of like this little pallet that he's made for himself is a bit more tolerable, but it still looks like it's under the desk. And
I'd still like to see this another 5-6 inches lifted up off the ground.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot better than sitting it straight on the ground.
Right.
But interesting. I've never seen a little caster platform like that before.
Yeah. That is kind of nifty.
All right. So it seems like a very GPU heavy system, a 970 in there, when you have a 3470 with a stock heatsink fan.
Right.
Yeah. The plus side of this would be, for me, you could upgrade to a new platform, new motherboard, new memory, new processor.
Sure.
And hang on to that 970, and that's still very viable. It's the most popular graphics card on Steam, I think, right now.
Yeah.
A 3470 seems a little, it's like starting to get more a little bit older and it's not an overclockable processor, and I'm not sure if a 3470 has hyperthreading or anything like that.
It'll probably be the next thing you have to upgrade, though.
But yeah, that's the thing.
Or your power supply looks kind of shoddy.
Yeah, 3470.
The power supply looks pretty shoddy.
3.6 gigahertz processor, 4 cores, 4 threads, so 4 cores, no hyperthreading.
Right.
It's still quad core though, so.
You don't need too much hyperthreading, probably.
So yeah, you're probably just fine for right now. It's Ivy Bridge.
Just get a better cooler.
Yeah, a better cooler would be nice, but I mean, honestly, if you're fine with that, you're not overclocking. Yeah.
Maybe you just want it to look nicer. That shit looks hideous.
Yeah, if you want to update the looks here, I would say you'd also need to invest a little bit more on the internals of the system, because you're probably running just fine for what you got right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably a pretty good balance, too. You're probably getting a lot of use out of that processor, but you're probably not maxing it out with a 970, depending on what your resolution you're playing at and that kind of thing. But yeah, nice little build. If you decide to do an upgrade path, new power supply, CPU, motherboard, memory, and cooler.
Yeah.
And keep everything else, because that would be a nice little upgrade.
It's basically the video card and the storage.
Yeah. Do all that, and then wait another 6 months to a year, and then upgrade your graphics card, and so the cycle continues.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ron. And our last entry is actually a kind of a new thing we're doing for Pimp My PC. I don't know if this is going to be ongoing, but this is the PC Pimp Redemption of the Week.
Oh.
So this is actually a guy, John, I believe is John, sent in his rig to us a few weeks ago. And we totally criticized it and said, yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be changed. If you scroll down, you'll instantly remember it. Keep going. One more. There you go. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is the guy who had half of his system literally outside of his chassis on his desk, or on his table, if you will, with the SSD and like the cooling components. Well, he's completely gone in and redone this kind of really low-end budget system, but made it look a hell of a lot more appealing in this really clean Antec 302 case, which just an amazing transformation here, where you can finally get everything in there. You can see his hard drive. I'm sure his SSD is either behind the motherboard tray, which whatever thinness awaits it, or maybe in the 5.25" bay. I'm not sure what he did with the SSD, but altogether a much more tidy and clean system here that we've seen from his previous entry. So
he got a new case.
He got a new case. He got a new case. All the internals to me look pretty much the same. Maybe one or two things.
And not
changed.
even like a new case, but like just a newer case. Still doesn't have a painted
it's still a
interior or
budget.
anything.
It's still a budget case. But just the fact that he got everything out and he was able to fit it all now. He was able to fit his power supply, his cooling, and his SSD in there, which I'm pretty sure his SSD.
And the reason I remember this is because of this weird cardboard housing here, which was that a. Did we ever figure out what that was? Is there a 3.5-inch drive in there or something?
Yeah.
Still not sure.
I can't confirm it, but I would guess it has to be a drive, because the only cable going out to it is a SATA cable.
All right. Well, very nice. Definitely improved.
Yeah.
Clean up the cable management.
Yep. Looks a hell of a lot better.
Right.
So thank you, John. That's pretty much going to conclude for Pimp My PC. And I think on that note, we're pretty much wrapped up, except if you want to do some Q&A. If you guys want to ask us some questions.
We'll do 3 questions.
We'll do 3 questions, because we are way over time.
We are way over.
Trying to be respectful for both of our times, both our time and yours. So go ahead and ask us 3 questions. We'll be taking 3 of your questions right now in chat, in Twitch, or on Twitter. Either or.
They have to be good questions.
They have to be really good questions. If they're bad questions, we're going to be like, no, not worth answering. They've got to be good. They've got to be really good. First, PC specs?
How do you answer? Someone said, how do you answer? Enter. How do you enter?
How do you enter? Enter what?
Pimp My PC, maybe?
Tweet me at Forever Kyle on Twitter on Tuesdays.
Yes.
Picture of your rig.
After party.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes. Yes. After party will happen. What do you want us to play on the after party? Blow up in chat. What are our options? We've got GTA 5. We've got Rocket League. We've got Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time.
Oh yeah, we could continue that.
Or we could even download a new game and try to figure that out. If you guys have a suggestion for us, that's not too expensive. I'd say under $15 or $10, I would be willing to buy that and download it if you wanted to watch Paul and I kind of test out a game.
There's two totally legit questions here.
Fuck them.
X47 says, "What will it take to slap Kyle?" More donations. More.
Yeah, someone needs to donate at least $100.
More YouTube donations. I'll just keep saying that.
More YouTube donations.
Do you think it's... Sorax207 says, "Do you think it's still a good idea to make an AM3 Plus build or wait for Zen?" Honestly...
Depends on what your budget is.
Right now, I'd say wait for Zen.
Yeah. Don't be hasty.
I'd say if you're buying a brand new system right now, look at Intel options. They're much more recent.
Yeah.
Or wait for Zen.
It also depends on what your budget is too, because the Zen chips are probably going to be more expensive than what you could find now.
If you can, and even saying wait for Zen isn't necessarily like saying wait for AM4, because what we're expecting with AM4 is AM4 is going to launch. There's going to be some APUs for it. There's going to be some CPUs for it. We might not see Zen CPU architecture on it until 6 months after AM4 stuff is available, but buying into an AM4 platform at launch with hopefully the promise that Zen will be available for it in the future could be a much more viable upgrade path than, for instance, investing in AM3 Plus or FM2 Plus right now. Right. So, yeah, that's where I would be there.
Let's see. Hadron said that you sent me $2. Okay, thank you.
Yay!
Thank you, $2.
Thank you, $2.
Thank you, Hadron. Also, play Who's Your Daddy? It's a very fun, cheap game. Have you heard of Who's Your Daddy?
No.
Neither have I.
Sounds fascinating.
We'll check that out, though. Have you played Brawlhalla at all?
That sounds really familiar.
Any game that's kind of like Super Smash Brothers, but it's on PC.
Oh, you played that a bunch because it's like Super Smash Brothers and you'd be really good at it.
No, I mean, I'm not really good at it. I'm okay with it.
I want to play like a few hundred hours.
I mean, we can play
that. Johnson's. Oh, we should do Johnson's.
Johnson's! All right, let's go to the Johnsons. Who do we got? Anybody? I've only got one. So thank you very much, Ryan, for picking up a CPU cooler shirt. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful.
CPU cooler shirts are amazing. I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure you will.
Right. Travis. Johnson Travis.
Travis! Johnson!
Travis, you made me say Johnson.
Johnson!
Travis picked up a thumbscrew shirt. Thank you very much, Travis. I sincerely hope you enjoy that.
Johnson! Sorry.
Only the highest quality.
Johnson!
All that good stuff.
Yep.
Fabulous. We have several people who say they like Brawlhalla.
Yeah, Brawlhalla is awesome. It's a really fun game. Maybe I can teach you how to play, and then we can go head to head, or we can play on the same team. Maybe we can just play multiplayer, but then gang up on the other people that don't know that we're a team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, as long as you don't mind me screwing up.
Fuck people up.
Cool. All right.
That's pretty much going to conclude for this episode, as well as this half, as well as the entire episode of Awesome Hardware. Again, if you haven't checked out Part A, I know some of you guys like to do it opposite. By the way, thank you, Abidans.
One last question.
My motherboard keeps one of my fans at 100%. What can I do? If your motherboard's keeping your fan at 100%, try plugging it into a different header. See if that makes a difference. And also, I don't know, see what motherboard you have, see what version you have, and see if there's any software connected to it that you can download and try to adjust that fan speed setting, because
often you can mess with that in the motherboard BIOS or UEFI settings.
Yep.
Or if you really can't get it to work and you have a different header that is working for adjusting your fan speed, consider purchasing a simple $2 3 or 4 pin fan splitter.
A splitter,
So you can plug usually a single fan header can handle 2 or 3 fans.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can plug a couple fans into that single header that is controlling the fan speed properly. Because I've definitely had motherboards where these 3 headers you can control the speed. These is just full bore all the time.
Right.
It really depends on your motherboard and all that kind of stuff.
True.
Anyway.
But thank you guys so much. Be sure to toss me a like on this video if you enjoyed it, if you're watching the rebroadcast on YouTube. Really appreciate that. And be sure to catch us every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time at twitch.tv/awesomehardware or at either of our respective YouTube channels, Paul's Hardware, Awesome Sauce Network, depending on which of us is presenting first that week. We like to alternate every other week. So thank you guys so much. Be sure to stay tuned for the after party if you're going to be awake for that. We will be playing some games. Probably on here, on Twitch?
Probably.
Streaming to Twitch, twitch.tv/awesomehardware. We're going to be streaming later tonight if you're watching us live. So be sure to catch us and join in on the fun on that. We're going to have dinner now. So...
Sounds good.
Yeah, we're hungry. Have a good night, guys. We love you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for watching, and see you guys next time.